So thank you all for filtering in. We've already got over 20 people coming into the session. I'll provide a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions or snarky comments like members of my team like to throw in there, just throw your questions in the chat box. I will attempt to answer as many questions as I can live here in the session. But any questions that get asked that I don't get to, rest assured, if you hit the request a demo button or reach out to any member of my team, we will address those questions accordingly. Other housekeeping, when I share content, I'm going to be jumping back and forth between a couple prepared PowerPoint slides as well as the live platform on Navigator, so I can answer directly some use cases that might exist. So in order to maximize that content that I'm sharing, as much as I'm sure you love my face, if you want to look at the content, just double click on the content window. So I'm going to double check that now and make sure it works. Let's fire up this. So hopefully you can see the slides. I'm going to spend just a couple minutes going through this prepared slide content, but then I'm going to get into the meat of the discussion, which actually involves our actual live platform. A couple notes for those that are tuning in. Most of the content I am going to discuss, and the bulk of what I think is important today, is geared toward owners, operators, and investors of commercial real estate. So if you are in the advisor broker community, if you are a corporate occupier, you will find some relevant content today, but most of this discussion is geared toward asset managers, owner operators of real estate. So with that being said, super quick background for those who don't know me. I am the Chief Operating Officer of Navigator CRE. I've been in commercial real estate for what feels like an eternity, but is only 15 years. Began my career at Morgan Stanley, then got an MBA, and then spent 9 years in management consulting. So my job was to evaluate companies like Navigator and other prop tech companies to see what would be the best fit for our asset manager clients. And that's how I found Navigator. And what I learned working with a lot of these asset manager clients was there were a lot of shiny tools out there. And a lot of those tools didn't matter unless they answered key critical questions. And I'm going to go through what I think some of those super important questions are right now. COVID has obviously changed some of these questions, right? I think we all care about finding the right deal, getting the deal done, and optimizing our asset once we own it. But COVID has changed, right? How we work with each other, how we find deals, how we execute deals, how we optimize our portfolio. And so if you are overseeing a leasing team, an acquisitions team, an accounting team, or if you're a C-suite executive at an asset management company, understanding risk versus opportunity becomes super important in our environment. And that's regardless of property type, right? Certain property sectors have been affected more than others. I think if you're an executive at a retail operator or a hospitality operator, you likely have had a lot more meetings, fire drills, negotiation discussions with various tenants than you might have if you are an owner operator of industrial or maybe even Class A office. So I'm not going to read each of these questions one by one. I'm going to come back to these as we go into the platform, but understand that everything I'm going to show you today is driven by these questions. Because at the end of the day, no matter what technology you're evaluating or what technology you are implementing, it needs to help you answer questions and make decisions quickly. Because I don't know about you, but I think we all have Zoom fatigue. We don't want to have 10 meetings a day virtually just because we're not in an office together. So what makes it hard to answer a lot of those important questions? I think we all know this. We've seen this before, right? Everybody has their own point solution because everybody has their own problems. And because of COVID, we're all geographically separated from one another. So it's hard to collaborate face to face, and all these different tools make it a little hard to collaborate virtually. So we want to solve that problem. We are not the only tool out there that does that, but I want to talk about why bringing this information together is so important, right? A lot of you as owners and operators of real estate have probably entered into some sort of tech journey, right? You've tried to either build an in-house data warehouse, you've evaluated some technology solutions, and a lot of them might bring data together, but they don't visualize it. Or you might have a great set of dashboards you've built internally to your team, but it's only for one set of data. To be an effective asset manager and owner-operator, you need both, right? You need to have all of your information together, and it needs to be visualized, because then, and only then, can you make effective decisions that affect all of the departments across your company. So what types of decisions might you be making as an asset manager? Well, to me, it falls into 4 buckets, right? How do we identify the right opportunity? Our chief strategy officer and co-founder, Russ, likes to say that the most successful asset managers don't secure their outsized IRR when they sell a building. They win when they buy a building. So it's finding the right opportunity and purchasing at the right price. That means timing, right? Not buying too early or too late, finding that sweet spot of when. But not only when you buy it, but what are the terms when you buy that deal, right? And once you've identified those opportunities, how do you effectively underwrite them with realistic expectations driven by today's market and what you expect the future market to be? And if you underwrite it to a spec that you're happy and you want to move forward, how can you then quickly execute and get the deal done? And then once that deal is done and it's part of your portfolio, how do you bring those new assets into your portfolio and optimize the overall mix such that they can drive outsized IRR or NOI? And once you've done that, how do you effectively distribute that information out to various audiences, whether those are current investors, new investors, channel partners, tenants, regulators, so that you can in turn attract more capital and start this cycle all over again? So these are the key questions I think we need to answer. But in order to answer them, I need to show you how we might do that in our platform. So a couple things before I dive into the platform. There are a lot of potential solutions out there. I would encourage you to think about as you view the Navigator platform and what we're recommending for our clients. Which teams at your company would this apply to? And if the answer is only one, like, oh, only my leasing team would use this, that's probably, we're not doing the right thing. We're not showing you the right thing. Because the point of our platform is to have every team member in a company work together and collaborate without having to learn a lot of new technology. I don't want to ask the leasing team to learn the acquisitions tool. I don't want the finance team, right, to have to learn the marketing tool and the CRM. I want all of those people to stick to their own tools with their own data that they know so well, but then be able to combine it together in one place so that you can all collaborate and make decisions. So let me jump in and show you what I mean. So the first thing I'll start with is, if you are an owner and operator of commercial real estate, I know a few of my friends who are on this call work at diversified owner operators. That means you are not aligned to only one specific property type. If you are, we can divide the data up, right, by department, by geography, by fund, by JV partner. But if you own multiple types of real estate, you likely have subject matter experts within your company that are driven by that particular subsector, right? If you're managing industrial assets, you're going to care a lot about dock doors, clear heights, etc. You're probably not going to care about that stuff if you're in multifamily. If you're in multifamily, you will care about common unit economics, your amenity mix, and how COVID has changing what amenities you offer in your current developments versus ones you might build out in future developments. If you're in Class A office, you're probably going to care a lot about the square foot per employee or per tenant. You're going to care about the retail that's sitting at the bottom of your building. You're going to care about elevator bays and common area maintenance and whether or not your roof space is rentable. If you are in retail, it's going to be different. If you're in multifamily, it's going to be different. If you're in raw land, it's going to be different. So we divide the data and information that sits in Navigator, completely customized to you, but most asset managers will divide by property type because the nomenclature is different. So I'm going to walk you through a few examples. So first, if you own assets in multiple geographies, the first thing to do is be able to see your entire portfolio in one place, regardless of who you are in the company. So if you're a leasing team in the Northeast, you might actually care about lease deals that are happening in the Northwest or Southwest because it might be the same tenant that's in a national footprint, and you'll want to know if your leasing team in the Northwest is negotiating a particular deal and what those metrics are, so they don't cannibalize what you're getting here in the Northeast. So understanding metrics across your portfolio is going to be very important. And in order to do that, you need to be able to get information about a particular asset very fast and it not being an Excel spreadsheet. So going from 30,000 feet down to the asset, right, fairly quickly, and this is just the full Google Maps API. Doing that in satellite view, you can see the surrounding area, surrounding assets. But more importantly, if you click on a property, understanding exactly what's important about that property. So if you own commercial real estate, most people are going to understand not just basic building information, and specs about the building, but you might want to understand, if you're an acquirer, what you bought the building for. What was your cap rate? What was the purchase price? What did you underwrite it for? And what was the market like when you bought it, based on when your date was? And are you going to be able to, within staying in that asset, get back to your own source systems? So a lot of people spend time and money on integrations, but to me, it's important to just be able to, in a single click, get back to your other platforms. So if you're on the leasing team and you're using BTS, you shouldn't have to have all the leasing information just stuck in here and not be able to do anything, right? With one click on BTS, it will log you into your own platform and you'll see the leases around your property. So you're not learning a lot of net new tech. You're still using the tool that you understand, that you've got some tribal knowledge around. But now I can share that lease information with everybody else on the team. Also, if you want to get to publicly available data that's related to this particular MSA, there are a lot of domains out there, but I would recommend Data USA. It is a publicly available resource. We offer it within our platform one click away. You can get demographic information, economic information, COVID-19 case information. This is updated every single day. And it is just one click away in the Navigator platform. So if you are evaluating technology, you should, as an asset manager, have access to publicly available data and be able to overlay that information with your own portfolio, because that's where you can make intelligent decisions about acquisitions and optimization. Once the data has come inside your portfolio and platform, then there's a series of questions you're likely going to ask, and I think you should be answering. And it's not just how many properties do you have in your portfolio, what's your total square footage footprint, and when were those properties built, although that is important. And you should be able to answer all those questions in 5 seconds, right? It's amazing how many owners don't actually know their entire portfolio square footage because they're buried in some sort of reports in Excel. So having that all on one screen is extremely important. But once you have your portfolio in place, the most common questions right now for asset managers during COVID are, what did I actually buy my building for when I purchased it? And what did I underwrite it to sell to? So some people will use Excel spreadsheets. Some people will use Argus models. For Navigator, we really like the Val tool. And Val, for those who aren't familiar with it, is a cloud-based underwriting and valuations tool. And we have partnered with them to bring in valuation information so that you can very quickly run sensitivity analysis and know, all right, if I increase the cap rate by 50 basis points, or I decrease the discount rate by 50 basis points, how is that going to affect what I'm spending when I buy, or what I'm getting when I sell? And you can track all of your valuation models inside of the dashboard to know very specifically what is the building worth today based on an external or internal evaluation, and what did you hope to sell it for? Having this here, not only as of today, but historical, to see how accurate your underwriting models were, becomes extremely important. So if you're tracking your models and the updates to those models over time, you can also track cap rate spreads when you made a purchase. So how are cap rates trending, right? And then, just as important, how did you underwrite, how did you finance the deals that you entertained? So was there preferred equity involved? Who were the lenders? Was it all senior debt, or was there a mezz piece because you did some ground up construction or redevelopment? When are those debts coming due, and do you need to enter some sort of refinancing arrangement, or do you need to offload a building at a certain cap rate spread before a lot of that debt begins to come due? That becomes important. Now, this is all at the portfolio level. Now, for most of you, even if you're a merchant builder and you're ground up developing and selling, you might be holding on to some assets before that sale happens, or you might be leasing up items before those buildings sell. So you really need to have a clear view of your rent roll. Now, for most people, rent roll information is going to be stored in some sort of ERP system. Yardi, MRI, RealPage, JD Edwards. We integrate with all of them. But getting rent roll information in is usually not quite enough. And I say that because most of you, if you are efficient with your capital and your operations, you have outsourced some piece of what your business is doing. You might have third-party property managers. You might have even third-party asset managers. You might have fee managers. And they're probably not operating on the exact same ERP system you are. They might have their own instances of Yardi. They might be using MRI. They might be using Sage. They might be using Entrada. They might be using just spreadsheets and sending you reports. Well, getting all of that information into one platform so that you can visualize it becomes hugely important. So step one as an asset manager, I would tell you right now, is efficiently getting all of your information from your JV partners, your property managers, everything into one place is paramount right now. And we can help you do that. We can give you recommendations on other people who have some, bespoke solutions. But Navigator was specifically built so that we can ingest data from all of those sources, and then you can see a rent roll on a particular place. And then we take it one step further, right? We will show you, just based on your raw rent roll, what the stacking plans of each of your buildings look like, right? Go from one property to another and see what suites are expiring. And this is going to differ depending on property type, right? I'll show you an example of a multifamily one. It's not gonna look the same, and it's gonna be more about bedroom type. If you are comparing either buildings within your own portfolio to one another, or you're getting some sort of third-party data, right? From a brokerage firm, from Real Capital Analytics, from CoStar, from Reonomy, from Cherry, as that information comes in, that's great to have, but not on its own. You need to visualize and understand apples to apples comparisons. You need to understand which of your suites or units or entire buildings are vacant right now during COVID, right? And you as a client should determine your own threshold for what becomes red alert. Oh my gosh, we need to spend a lot of money. Now, that's fine. That's table stakes. Asset managers doing vacancy analytics all the time. What not every asset manager is doing is understanding exactly how long each of these suites or units has been vacant. And that becomes super important because when combined with market rate rental information, you know down to the dollar how much money you're losing every month when a particular unit or suite is vacant. So with that information, you can quickly do a break-even analysis. How much should you spend to increase or improve the finish out of a unit or suite? How should you redevelop? Should you enter some sort of look and lease special if you're multifamily, or long-term deferment, rent abatement, blend and extend if you're in office. Having both the downtime and the market rate rent become very important. And that information needs to come into some sort of visualization platform, hopefully Navigator, that can show you that. And if you are in the either office or retail or hospitality arena, understanding your tenant mix is extremely important. So based on their industry, often tracked by NAICS code, what's the average rent? What's the percentage of your portfolio? Are you overweight anywhere? What is the percentage of delinquencies by industry? Because some of them have been affected by COVID. And who should you be trying to reach out to in this market in order to get outsized NOI in your portfolio? Now, for those of you that are out there who are not only in the office world, but you're in the, let's say, just multifamily world, as an example, let's bring up a stacking plan. So your stacking plan is going to look very different from someone who owns an office building, right? It's going to look a little bit more jumbled, and you're not necessarily going to care about one particular multifamily tenant, although some of you might. What's going to be more important is understanding the makeup of a particular building. How many studios do you have? 1 bed, 1 bath, 2 bed, 2 bath, larger units? Because some of those are selling either at a higher rate or a higher frequency of being rented, right? In this COVID market, right? I doubt the 3 bed, 2 bath, people sharing common space and bathrooms is as profitable or as popular a unit mix as is the singular 1 bed, 1 bath unit. So if your 3 bed, 2 baths are expiring in a meaningful way in the month of August, instead of trying to release them at discounted rates, what if you broke them out and created 2 1 bed, 1 bath units? Those are just decisions to think about, but having the information visually in front of you so that you can make those decisions quickly is typically the difference, typically a material difference in basis points of NOI in the building. For those of you who are actually doing ground up development as part of your company life cycle, quickly understanding which of your development sites are just raw land and still need permitting versus you've achieved permitting and now they're under construction, versus they're under construction and you're entering into lease up, versus now they're getting leased up and they're stable. And understanding, for this example, this is industrial. You might have multiple building types. Some of them are going to have different construction CO requirements than others, right? If you're building a distribution center, that's going to be very different than if you're building cold storage. And you can very quickly understand which buildings by type are under development. And this is super important, not only if you're developing assets, but if you are wanting to purchase different types of assets. So people ask me all the time, the heads of acquisitions at asset managers, how should I be tracking all of my comps data? I get a big spreadsheet from a broker, and it could be hundreds of transactions within a metroplex or a city. Well, you probably don't care about cold storage comps if you're trying to sell or buy a distribution center. So you need to be able to get all of the comp information in one place. And then very quickly in this example, I only want Class A buildings that are distribution centers, right? Very fast. Here are the building sets. Here are the cap rate spreads. Show me right now what the spread was, right? You need to be able to get to information, maybe not that fast, but fast enough to where when executives are busy and we all have Zoom fatigue, and we've been on Zoom for 3 hours already. I've got a meeting this afternoon. In that 1 hour meeting, I should know among 150 different buildings, and in this example, what's my overall set here? 114 buildings. I should be able to, in that one meeting, get down to like the 4 buildings that I'm going to do heavy due diligence on before I make offers. That is what a good data warehouse and visualization tool should be doing for you. And it's not just about what buildings are alive today, it's showing the comp history right? So you need to understand the cap rate spreads over time so that you know if what a broker is telling you should be offering is actually accurate, or whether you're going to know just as much on your own, right? So that's just a few examples. I've got plenty more. Let me come out of this share real quick and grab a drink of water. So our trustworthy leader, the leader of CREtech, Michael Beckerman, has piped in with a question. Business has never been stronger, Navigator. Yeah, I'm not going to do a plug for us. We're doing great. We're growing quite a bit. We're winning a lot of clients. The reason for that, I think, is because of this remote working requirement. I don't know about you out there as owner operators and investors of real estate, if you're going back into an office yet, but half of our team goes in almost every day. The other half has decided they would prefer to work remote and be productive. When you are geographically separated and you don't have that collaborative environment face-to-face with which to bounce questions off each other, it becomes super, super important that everyone's looking at the same set of information, because you can't just lean over to the next desk, right, and ask a quick question, or get on Slack and ask a message. You need to make sure that all of the data that you're looking at is data that's trusted. And that's what Navigator does. The one set of use cases I probably haven't addressed that I think are on a lot of people's minds is the idea of collections, delinquencies, etc. And understanding day by day how much you're collecting, where your deferments need to go, what's break even in an asset, I think is super important. So I'm going to share a couple examples here. Do I have this open? Let's do this one. So hopefully you guys can see my screen. Couple examples. So understanding cumulative collections as they come in each day, and this could be by tenant, by division, by market, by region, understanding how cumulatively you're getting toward 100% of your collections is going to be really important to understand. But it goes beyond that, right? Because this month is just a point in time. So understanding your trend analysis. What were your collections pre-COVID? In this example, I'm calling this the first quarter of this year, before a lot of the city shutdowns happened. When the shutdown orders started mid-March, right? Most of the first quarter payments had already been made. So January, February, March were pretty static and understandable. Then you had other sets of information come in, right? You had the CARES Act, you had some rent relief. So April and May probably looked fairly similar too, but now you want to understand how that was comparing to pre-COVID. June, some of that unemployment insurance ran out depending on what state you were in. And then in July, it's becoming even more and more pronounced. So tracking month by month how you're trending as you collect each day with pre-COVID is going to become important if you're an asset manager. And most of you are probably already trying to figure out how to visualize this information. You're probably doing it in Excel today. A key point, if you are either refinancing a building, doing a recap, selling a building, or looking for distressed opportunities, is understanding the break-even point. So most of you have probably, by whatever expense ratios you're tracking in your ERP system, learning what break-even collection point is in a building. If you haven't done so, please reach out to us and we'll give you some advice on how to conduct that analysis. But knowing visually when the collections have crossed that break-even point, so that everything beyond that is either profit that would go toward debt service of the building, or profit that would go toward distributions out to your limited partners and funders, whether those are pension funds or university endowments or just wealthy family offices. And then of course, right, everyone wants to see the mafia list, right? if you're an office owner, who are the larger tenants that you've probably proactively already reached out to do some sort of negotiation. Or understanding smaller tenants who might need expansion, how they can take over some space, understanding who exactly is behind in rent, and having that all in one place. And this is going to be regardless of property type. The last thing I would show you is COVID dashboards, right? So we all care about COVID. It's affected us in one way or another, but some information is much more important than others, right? Anybody can track with publicly available information, case and death data. That's not going to be nearly as important, right, as the, I'll call it industry effect, right? Employment levels. So if you're in leisure and entertainment, understanding by county what the unemployment levels are in your particular county. If you're thinking about reopening a building or reoccupying an asset, how might COVID be specifically affecting the economic profitability in your specific county or in your specific region? And if you're a hospitality person, really, there's what's the one I want to show? Where's the government shutdown orders? There's a lot. Here we go. So some of you might be tracking when a particular city or state went into lockdown mode or shutdown mode, or when they decided to relax restrictions. Having all of this government lockdown information tracked inside your portfolio, so you know when it's safe not to open an asset, renegotiate a lease, is going to be extremely important. And you should, as successful owner-operators, be tracking that shutdown information with your overall portfolio. That is the waterfront of what I wanted to show you, but I'll try to spend the next 6 or 7 or so minutes answering questions that's in the chat. And if anything else comes up, please obviously feel free to reach out to me. Every major brokerage firm has spoke about acceleration of tech within their organizations. Are we seeing that as well? 100%. There's one of my favorite cartoons. There's people up in an office building in a conference room saying, yeah, we're not sure about this digital transformation thing. I think we should go ahead and wait. And outside of the building is a big wrecking ball that says COVID-19 on it, headed toward the building. I think that is what has happened to a lot of companies. I'm sure a lot of you, myself included, snickered a bit about the idea of virtual touring, right? Like, let's go see the building face to face. It's so much better. We don't need this stuff. Virtual touring, not worth it. Now, every single owner operator is looking at virtual touring. Obviously, that has had an effect on Navigator, a very, very positive effect on Navigator. Because let's be honest, right? If you own, operate, and invest in real estate, getting all of the data and information into one place so that you can make decisions on it becomes a lot more important, right? The timetable has shrunk. And so what you're going to offer for a particular acquisition, if not you're going to sell an asset, if you're going to let employees back into your buildings, if you're going to renegotiate your own office leases, most of your employees are going to want more space. So the per employee square footage footprint probably increases, but the need for all of them to be in an office every day decreases. So are you going to be net the same? That is probably for the brokerage firms to answer. But as far as tech adoption and inquiry overall, my advice to you as an asset manager or owner operator, any tech you evaluate, you should ask the question, is it going to enable me as a manager, leader, executive? Is it going to enable me to make decisions more quickly without sacrificing the accuracy and the trustworthiness of those decisions so that I can report out that decision making to my investors and capital partners? Because at the end of the day, right, as owners of real estate, we're all trying not just to be successful, but to advertise that success to our capital partners so that they'll give us more money so that we can do this cycle all over again, right? Question from Subro. Do we provide a database of projects that are under construction? So that's a really, really important point I did not mention. Navigator ourselves, we do not sell or provide data. So we help you gather and aggregate and integrate data sources from outside the platform. Now, we have a number of data partners that we have enjoyed working with, the team at Moody's Analytics, and some of their data partners, Reese, Statebook, Enrich Data. We've done some work with the folks at Bionomy and with Cherry. We've seen data sets from Real Capital Analytics, CoStar, right? So if you are gathering data based on projects under construction, sales or lease comps in the market, permitting orders, government information, demographic information, we can bring all of that into Navigator, combine it with your own portfolio, and then help you make decisions with it. But we ourselves do not own, share, or sell data, right? We prefer to be Switzerland so that each client can work with us without the fear of their information being shared or sold, even as anonymized data. We won't do that anyway, to other owner-operators. Now, one caveat to that. If you work for an owner-operator that's entering into joint ventures with another owner-operator or capital partner, and you would like to share data with one another and opt in to do that, we facilitate that by providing licenses for the same cost to both entities so that you can have access to each other's data and systems so that you can collaborate. Any other questions? How fast can we ingest data from third-party sources? Well, I mean, I don't like to make any guarantees. For those that don't know my full background, when I was at Deloitte, we would do system selections, designs, and implementations of this sort, and often it was many months and many millions of dollars. I can tell you that for most of our clients, we are ingesting hundreds of thousands of rows of data and validating the data set and combining it with that of your own portfolio in 2 weeks or less. The visualization piece, the creation of dashboards, completely depends on what you want to visualize and how you want to customize it. But we've, without calling out any particular client names, because I don't want to violate their trust, we have onboarded full portfolios in 2 weeks. So please feel free to submit any other questions either via chat or to any of my team members, and I'm happy to answer them. I'll be around for the rest of the conference, either me or team members in our expo booth. We're happy to run demos and show you some of the dashboards and functionality I wasn't able to show in this session. But if I had to give you a final takeaway, it's that you should be thinking about the information that enables you to make decisions with regard to your platform in minutes, not in months, right? Quarterly reports won't cut it anymore. You need to have information feeding a platform typically nightly, and meetings need to be making decisions based on up-to-date data. Our CEO wants to know what asset classes Navigator works in. So we every property type that I showed you today. So hospitality, retail, multifamily, industrial, Class A office, senior living, raw land development, and even those who occupy real estate but don't own it, right? I didn't talk a lot about occupiers today, but if you're in manufacturing, if you're in healthcare, if you're in aviation, but you happen to occupy a lot of real estate, we can look at your net lease obligation. In the US, in Europe, in Asia, we are a completely global portfolio platform that does currency translation and language translation as well. So Chuck, who is a longtime friend of the firm, has done some moderation of other panels. Yes, Chuck. If your example, right, a client that is using Yardi for property management and using Val for underwriting, that is a very, very easy fit for us. So a lot of our clients use Yardi. We bring in commercial property and rent roll information. We bring in investment management, capital transaction information, and then we can combine that with the underwriting models that are created in Val, so that you can look at underwriting and budgeting and forecasting metrics. It's very, very easy for us to do. So Chuck, we can talk offline. All right, the last point I'll make is, because multiple people have asked about Europe and with Newmark Knight Frank. So Newmark is our largest corporate services client. So Newmark does a lot of great work with people who occupy but do not own a lot of real estate and need to understand how COVID has affected their net lease obligation, their remote workforce capabilities, their future transactions. And we've worked with Newmark to help build a series of dashboards and tools that help them deliver information out to their clients in a much faster way than would have been able before. And the folks at Newmark have been, I don't want to plug them too much, but they've been fantastic to work with, because they give us a lot of feedback on use cases and ideas for dashboards, and they get that feedback directly from their occupier clients. So we appreciate the work that we're doing with them and with everyone else. I know this session was only supposed to be 30 minutes, and I appreciate almost 50 of you sticking around much longer than that. So I will wrap it up here, but please direct any questions to me via email, kevin@navigatorcre.com, or our various other associates that'll be around the conference, and we'd love to work with you and show you more. But thank you very much for your time.